little creepier.
I think that's done naked in the moonlight or something.
Well, that would make sense. Because, as it happens, she actually added her moon blood to the concoction.
It's a real personal prescription.
Yeah. Yeah, no shit. And Richard's like, I really wish you would have told me that before I used it. But if it's a bad enough rash, would you still have used it?
Oh, man. That's...
Look, Richard can withstand anything. As far as I'm concerned, this is a super rash, and it is eating away at the skin on his soon-to-be face. Right? So, it must have been bad for him to complain about it.
I mean, I agree. I'm just saying, knowing what I know about
Jade?
germs and medications and things that we use now, like what do you call it? Like modern medication.
Modern medicine?
Yeah, modern medicine. This doesn't sound like it. I don't know.
Like if it's something one should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, blood is blood, I guess, regardless of where it comes from. But it's...
Yeah, I guess that's my question.
Kind of a shock.
Blood, too? Okay.
Yeah, well, it's got to do with magic, you know. Anyway, but yeah, Richard is not very receptive to that idea. But when you think about it, Kara did that because she claimed Richard as, like, her tenant. Kara is the one who looks after Richard. She's the main person.
Like she's called herself, like, I am
his caregiver.
Yeah.
I'm the one that takes care of him. There's a bond there.
Yeah.
Right? And, you know, Ulick and Egan, the bros, they're there, and they're big and badass, and that's cool. You gotta have your bodyguards. And the 500 guys who are still outside, they're just your standard. They're coming anyway. It's their job. But Kara is the one who is, like, claiming responsibility for Richard.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that can be a powerful thing.
And now she's marked him with her moon blood.
Yeah. Oh. Somebody goes, I licked it. It's mine. And she's like, yeah? You want to know what I did?
Try me.
So she also asks him if he remembered to put just a little bit on his left heel.
That's obviously why it's not working.
He's like, yeah, no, I didn't read the instructions. I just put it on the rash. And she's like, well,
Yeah, that's obviously why. But I'm definitely not going to do it again, Kara. Now that I know.
Any hope of me smearing any more of that on it's on the back of his neck, right?
Yeah.
And there, or my heel, greatly diminished when you told me what was in it.
Yeah.
Much like some kinds of food. I'll try it, but don't tell me what it is till after I've assessed how I feel about it.
You won't... That's the opposite now. You won't eat things unless I tell you what's in it now. So...
But, well, yeah, to a certain extent, I suppose you're right. I do need to know what it is, but I don't necessarily have to know what it is. Like, well... No, the more and more I think about it, I'm just coming up with terrible examples, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't eat that.
Yeah, I know.
I take it back. No, I want to know. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. In the meantime, I think we could probably use a beer break.
I think we could too. I'm on board with that.
Well, today we have middle-aged IPA. No, I'm not there yet. You can't prove that. You can't prove that.
It depends. Never mind. That's just depressing.
Now I want to know what you were going to say, but maybe later.
Let's drink more first.
Yeah, this one clocks in at 4.5%. And good news, it's only 150 calories.
So you can drink more.
Which is great. If you're trying to lose a bit of the weight, summertime, got some river rafting to do.
Mm-hmm. You can fill up
want to get stuck in the branches, got to be able to, you know.
You can fill up one of them growlers and bring it down the river with you.
Oh, that's happening. This one also has the Bermeau, and Coopersville Cascade hops, light-bodied with a very dry finish. Now this one, it's not overly hoppy, and it's also not overly carbonated, so it's smooth. And as simple as that sounds, it also is kind of like flat. Like, it's great. You're like, oh, it's a smooth beer, but at the same time, it kind of reminds you of a little bit of a flat pop. And, like, flavor-wise, I enjoyed it. I really did. Even though it's an IPA, I think I would recommend it, but I don't know. Pump some bubbles into that thing. Maybe it'll be a little nicer.
Oh, yeah. I think it was just a nice, middle of the road, I think that's why it's called middle-aged. It's just, for that nice, easy drinker, and you don't really gotta think a lot about it.
Maximum effort.
Yes, exactly. So, I would recommend as well, if I were going to recommend an IPA, which I probably won't recommend an IPA, but if I were going to, I would.
Which is saying something.
Yeah.
We're on a quest for Jade's IPA. We have the gold standard. We know that. Mm-hmm. But I'm bound and determined to find another IPA that you enjoy. And this one, I think, is as close as we've gotten so far.
Yeah. I'm gonna grab another beer, and then we'll be back after this. And we're back! We wanted to mention real quick, because we forgot to at the top of this episode, I don't know if you guys have noticed that there's a little bit of a sound quality difference in this episode. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's close enough to where it didn't really bother you, but if it did, we just wanted to let you guys know that we're not recording in our normal situation tonight. We are recording on a cell phone.
Yeah, my computer, wouldn't start. Because it's a super nice one, and we recorded for about 3 minutes, and it lost close to half of that. So we didn't want to risk it, and we are just going at it on the phones. So we're doing our best. Hopefully it's not too terrible, and hopefully this is only temporary. But if it does work, this will solve our recording out and about issue.
Correct.
So we will see.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you guys for bearing with us. Hopefully it doesn't sound too terrible.
Yes. Anyways, back to the story. So, now that we're inside, Richard finds about a dozen books sitting on a table in the, entryway. It's not really an entryway. I don't know. It's like a...
The way I look at it is they go through the portcullis, right? Then you have the actual door that they just went through that was shielded. That was open. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the people couldn't go through. So this is like your entryway. This is where the desk with the receptionist would be to help you find what it is you're trying to find. But none of that's there. All of this is there.
Yeah, instead, there's just all these books that are about the same size, but in different languages. He recognizes one of the languages as Haida-Haran, but obviously he can't fucking read it himself.
Right. Now, so the Book of Counted Shadows, when Richard read that, was that in Haida-Haran?
I think so.
Didn't we talk about Richard being able to read it, because of his magic?
Yeah, it was, specifically spelled so that he was able to, because he's magic.
Okay, because he was who he was, yeah. He was able to read it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he can just read any Haida-Haran.
Right.
And I don't know for sure it was written in Haida-Haran. That's just kind of a guess, but that would make sense if it was cued to Richard.
Well, and that's why he could remember. Maybe I'm mixing it up. I know that he could remember it in the way he did because it was obviously he memorized it. But it was spelled in such a certain way.
It was keyed to him.
Yeah.
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 Here we are trying to convince ourselves.
But yeah, he basically, he doesn't have command of the language. He can't recognize it when it's written.
Right.
But Berdine casually looks over his shoulder and is like, yo, those are the adventures of Bonnie Day. And Richard's like, how the fuck do you know that?
Excuse? I'm supposed to be the guy here. What's going on?
And shit gets real pretty quick. All emotion leaves her face. She explains her father taught her, and that was one of the reasons that she was chosen to be a Mord Sith. And Darkenrahl isn't, like, super fond of other people knowing things he knows, so he didn't want other people knowing the language. And Richard really didn't have to guess what happens next, because we all know what happens to Mord Sith fathers.
Yeah, Mord Sith fathers and people who Darkenrahl dislikes.
Right, so double whammy there.
It did say that Darkenrahl used Hydaharan to perform some of the magic that he performed.
Yeah, well, and he used Berdine to, like, verify that he was reading things correctly.
Yeah, after the fact. But it sounds like he didn't want people to know exactly what it was he was doing in the first place. Because if they spoke Hydaharan, they could have figured that out.
Yeah, no. He was all, like, secret-y, whatever, bullshit.
Yeah, well, we know what he does behind locked doors.
Yeah.
He's a son of a bitch.
Well, Richard tells Berdine he recognizes the language because of a prophecy that named him Pure Brissa Ostraka.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was perfect. And she correctly works out that that means the bringer of death, because she knows the language. And then she sweetly adds that that must only mean for his enemies, because, you know, he's not a bad guy.
No, he's not a bad guy at all. And Richard really appreciates her saying that to him. I don't know what it means to me as a reader yet, other than, obviously, we had the whole nipple thing earlier in the book, and they thought Richard was betraying their trust for a while, and then he revealed that, no, I had to do a kind of weird thing. Sorry about that, but it was honestly just to keep everybody safe. And I will never ask you guys to do anything inappropriate. You know, and so because that happened, now they have a bond.
Well, I think it's that, and also for Richard, I mean, these women have gone through their own level of hell, and they kind of are seen as monsters and probably see themselves as monsters themselves. Richard, we know, struggles with that because of how much he has to kill and do bad things.
That's true.
The fact that anybody can look at him and know what he does and look at him not as a monster or the bringer of death, but as, like, a good dude, it probably, makes him feel bonded to them because he's like, you're one of the only people who could look at me in that way.
And is probably a massive relief.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way before. I like that. It definitely, I think it was the last episode that we were talking about how Richard and some of the Mord Sith, they have a connection, but we missed out on whatever it was that made them super, super close. And maybe I want to retract that and say that, no, we didn't. Maybe this thing that happened between them was solid, concrete evidence to the Mord Sith that Richard really is the good guy that they believe him to be. And because he is that, they are willing to, like, wholeheartedly trust him and him them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally believe that, and I think that's why the relationship with him and the Mord Sith is way deeper. And obviously Kahlan doesn't understand that. She gets a little bit of what happened between him and Denna back in the first book.
Right.
She doesn't get, like, she would never be able to understand this relationship, at least not at face value.
Well, and I mean, it's kind of making lighthearted, this topic, even though it's kind of emotional. And it is really a nice thing that you see between Richard and the Mord Sith. But they do share a certain kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why me and you work so well. Yeah. So, we're all just a little bit nuts.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked many times about Richard's repressed PTSD that he's obviously just shoving down there, and you know that these women have just oodles of that.
They gotta have the same thing.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes the American Legion going there and seeing some of the vets interact with each other, especially the guys that we brought from, like, the vets home just to hang out. and talk and like have a beer and a burger or a hot dog for a little while and watch those guys who